The air crackled with excitement, a palpable energy that seemed to electrify everyone present. The scent of popcorn and fairy floss hung heavy in the air, mingling with the aroma of hot dogs and freshly made churros. It was a day like any other at Luna Park, the grand dame of Sydney's amusement scene, where memories were made and laughter was a constant companion. Families strolled beneath the grinning face of the iconic entry arch, their faces lit up with anticipation and joy. Children's laughter echoed through the air, mixing with the rhythmic calls of ride operators and the distant hum of the Ferris wheel. For young Damian Godson, it was a day of pure joy, a day he had dreamed about for so long.
He clutched my hand, his small legs barely able to contain his excitement as he pulled me towards the nearest ride. This was his first trip to Luna Park, a 7th birthday present he'd been anticipating for weeks, counting down the days with eager impatience.
Jenny watched her son with a smile, her heart swelling with happiness at his unbridled enthusiasm. Damian, with his bright eyes and infectious grin, had been the light of her life since the day he was born, bringing joy to every moment. His father, John, walked beside them, a silent giant with a gruff exterior that hid a heart of gold, always ready to protect and cherish his family. The day stretched before them, promising a kaleidoscope of sights and sounds, each more thrilling than the last. Little did they know it would culminate in a night of unimaginable horror, a stark contrast to the joy they felt now. The ghost train, its weathered facade, a grinning skull leering down at them, held a particular allure for young Damian. He tugged at his mother's hand, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and exhilaration.
"Ready for a spooky ride, son?" he boomed, his voice echoing over the park's din.
John chuckled, his large hand engulfing Damian's as he hoisted him onto his shoulders. Jenny watched them go, a wave of maternal anxiety washing over her. She wasn't fond of the ghost train, its dark tunnels and flickering lights unsettling her, but Damian's excitement was infectious, and she couldn't deny him this moment. She watched as the train disappeared into the darkness, the screams and laughter of its passengers swallowed by the night. A knot of unease tightened in her stomach. The first sign of trouble was a plume of smoke, black and acrid, billowing from the ghost train's entrance. Then came the screams, high-pitched and terrified, cutting through the festive atmosphere like shards of glass. Panic erupted. People surged away from the Inferno, their faces contorted in fear.
I stood frozen, my heart pounding against my ribs. The knot in my stomach twisted, a cold dread seeping through my veins.
The screams intensified, a chorus of agony that seemed to go on forever. Then, just as abruptly, they were silenced, swallowed by the roar of the flames and the panicked shouts of the crowd.
It was chaos. We tried to save as many as we could, but the fire spread so quickly, it was like nothing I'd ever seen.
Time seemed to stop, as if the universe itself held its breath. The world narrowed to the Inferno raging before her. Her son, her husband. Where were they? The flames danced menacingly, mocking her helplessness.
Frantic, my heart pounded in my chest like a war drum, I searched the faces of the fleeing crowd, each one a blur of fear and desperation, my hope dwindling with every passing moment. Every second felt like an eternity. The heat of the blaze scorched my face, but I couldn't move, couldn't tear my gaze from the inferno that had consumed my family. The firelight distorted my vision, making the scene even more surreal. I stood there, paralyzed, as the flames devoured everything I held dear.
It was hours before the fire was extinguished, hours that felt like an eternity of agonizing uncertainty. The firemen fought valiantly, but the flames were relentless, hours that stretched into an eternity of agonizing uncertainty. When the ash settled and the first light of dawn broke through the smoke, and the firemen finally allowed her through, she stumbled forward, her legs weak from fear and exhaustion. She was met with a scene of unimaginable horror. The once vibrant amusement park was now a graveyard of twisted metal and ash. The air hung heavy with the stench of charred wood and burnt flesh, a smell that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Twisted metal and smouldering debris were all that remained of the ghost train, a ride that had once brought joy, now reduced to a nightmare. It was there amidst the wreckage that they found John, his large frame shielding a smaller, charred figure. Damian. The sight was both heartbreaking and heroic.
Later, when the initial shock had given way to a grief so profound it threatened to consume me, I felt a hollowness that words could never describe. I found a photograph in Damian's pocket. It was a small piece of happiness amidst the overwhelming sorrow. It was a picture of him and John, taken just moments before they boarded the ill-fated ride. Their smiles mocked me, a cruel reminder of the happiness that had been so brutally ripped away. The photo was now a relic of a time that felt like a distant dream. I clutched the photo to my chest, tears streaming down my face, as I realized that those smiles were now just memories.
And so the day of joy at Luna Park ended in a night of unspeakable tragedy, a memory forever etched in the hearts of those who lived through it. The park, once a place of laughter and light, was now a symbol of loss and sorrow. A memory forever etched in the hearts of those who lived through it. The faces of the survivors told a story of pain and loss, a collective grief that would never fade. As the initial shock subsided, whispers began to circulate. Whispers of a figure, tall and menacing, seen lurking near the ghost train shortly before the fire erupted.
Witnesses described a man in a dark coat and a strange, horned mask. He moved with an unsettling grace, his eyes visible through the mask's eye holes, burning with an unnatural intensity.
Some dismissed it as hysteria, the overactive imaginations of traumatized witnesses, but others, particularly those who claimed to have seen the figure, insisted it was more than just a figment of their fear.
They spoke of an aura of malice, a tangible sense of evil that clung to the mysterious figure.
The image of the horned figure, seared into the minds of those who claimed to have seen him, took on a sinister life of its own. Some whispered of ancient rituals, of dark sacrifices made to appease forgotten gods. Was it mere coincidence, or was there a darker truth lurking beneath the ashes of the Luna Park fire? The name Moloch, a Canaanite deity associated with child sacrifice, began to surface. The whispers grew louder, fueled by the authorities' inability to determine the fire's cause. The official investigation concluded that it was an electrical fault, but many found this explanation unsatisfactory. The timing was too perfect, the presence of the masked figure too unsettling to ignore. Theories abounded, each more outlandish than the last. Some pointed to a disgruntled employee recently fired from Luna Park seeking revenge. Others whispered of a business rivalry, a deliberate act of sabotage intended to force the park into closure. But the most disturbing theory, the one that sent chills down the spines of even the most skeptical, was that of a ritualistic sacrifice. The presence of the horned figure, the seemingly deliberate targeting of the ghost train, and the young victims all pointed towards a more sinister explanation. The police dismissed such talk as ludicrous, but the seeds of doubt had been sown. The fire at Luna Park, once tragic accident, began to take on the sinister aura of an unsolved mystery. The investigation stalled, leads ran cold. The figure in the mask, if he ever existed, vanished without a trace. The official explanation, an electrical fault, left too many questions unanswered. Why had the fire started in the ghost train, a ride known for its stringent safety protocols? Why had no one noticed the masked figure before the fire? And why had he disappeared so completely afterward? The lack of answers fueled the speculation, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. The fire at Luna Park became a dark stain on the city's conscience, a grim reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most joyous occasions. Years passed. The charred ruins of the ghost train were dismantled, the site rebuilt, but the memory of that horrific night lingered. Luna Park reopened, its laughter a pale echo against the backdrop of tragedy. The case grew cold, the files gathering dust in some forgotten corner of police headquarters. The fire at Luna Park became a footnote in history, a tragic accident attributed to faulty wiring. But for those who lost loved ones that night, the mystery remained. The questions lingered, unanswered. Was it a tragic accident or a deliberate act of malice? Was the masked figure a harbinger of evil or merely a figment of traumatized imaginations? The truth, lost somewhere in the ashes of that horrific night, remained elusive. Jenny Godson never recovered from the loss of her husband and son, Their absence was a void that nothing could fill, a wound that time refused to heal. The fire at Luna Park had consumed more than just their bodies. It had devoured a part of her soul. The flames had taken away her joy, her laughter, and left behind an unending sorrow. She carried their memory with her, a heavy weight that never lessened. Every photograph, every memento was a reminder of the life she once had, a life that was cruelly snatched away. The official explanation, the whispers, the theories, they all rang hollow. No amount of speculation or gossip could bring her peace or closure. Nothing could bring back her Damian, her John. Their loss was a constant ache, a pain that never dulled.
She visited Luna Park every year on the anniversary of their deaths, drawn to the sight of their loss by a grief that refused to be extinguished. It was her way of staying connected to them, of honouring their memory. And as she stood there beneath the shadow of the grinning entry arch, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, knew the truth about what happened that night. The unanswered questions haunted her, fueling her relentless search for answers. The fire at Luna Park might have been extinguished, but for Jenny Godson, the flames of grief and the search for answers would burn forever. Her quest for the truth was a fire that could never be put out, a testament to her enduring love and unyielding spirit.